Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. So you've done everything that you can to prepare. You have a good food supply. You have it all stocked up. You even have moved to a little homestead where you can have a nice garden, raise some chickens, maybe a dairy cow or some goats. And you're really working hard on being self-sufficient. And then everything happens and the big balloon goes up and you're back to your roots as a human, where you're just really surviving on your own. And you think, I've got this because I'm well prepared. And then you get injured and you realize that you're probably not as prepared as you thought. And no matter how well we prepare for something, a simple little injury, it can put it all on hold. It will come crashing down upon you. And so I want to talk to you today about preparing for that, preparing for those injuries, because that can be a big one. I mean, even something small, minor that you would get now, if it happens when you're really kind of surviving, or your existence really depends upon what you're doing, that could take you out of the game big time. So let's get started on that. And I'm coming to you with this idea in this video because I'm personally experiencing this. Yesterday, it's not a big deal, but it's what gave me the idea for this video. Yesterday, I was in a hurry, walking outside, coming off the front porch of the house, and I tripped and fell off the porch. And I'm okay, but I'm hurting. I mean, I'm sore, I'm injured, but of course not to the point that I couldn't do something. But it made me think again. What if we're in a position and in a place that my family's existence, their survivability, their safety, everything truly depends on me being healthy. And then that happens. What if I'm really having to defend our property from bad people, or I really have to get out there and do things to keep us alive, and then I get injured? How's that gonna work? I mean, is it going to really be a major setback for us? Are there things that I could have done to prevent it? Are there things that I could have on hand to help me get through an injury? And that's really something that we all need to be thinking about. Throughout history, we compare ourselves now to the past in one way of our life expectancy. We brag nowadays as a modern society that we have the longest life expectancy ever. And even if you go back just 100 years, you'll see the life expectancy here in the United States is much less than what it is today. And the reason is because, well, people got injured. People got sick. People went off to war a little bit more. Wars were typically more bloody, so that did play a big factor into it. And then also there's a factor of more children dying at birth. But there is that factor that they either got injured or they got sick, and they didn't survive it a lot more than now. And the reason is because, I mean, it's obvious. We have access to modern medicines. We have access to modern healthcare, and that everyone can access it. So when we get injured or when we get sick, we're able to take care of ourselves better. We're able to get the proper proper medicines, the proper medical practices to extend our life, heal our body, and extend our life. Well, what happens when that doesn't exist anymore? What happens when society falls apart? What happens when that part of society still exists? And this is what I think it's going to happen. This is how I think it's going to play out. I think the healthcare systems, hospitals and stuff will probably continue to exist. I think that they'll just be less available to a lot of us, because so many of us will not choose their digital currency, or won't choose their digital identification or their health apps, or to be part of their system. And when we do choose to not be part of that, then that means that we're putting ourselves in a big state of vulnerability. And so to counteract that, meaning that, if we're going to choose to not be part of their this modern big brother, the beast system, then we need to have a plan in place to take care of ourselves when it comes to our medical needs. And that's why I push really big on herbal medicine. I know it doesn't take care of everything, but it can certainly supplement, and it can take care of a lot. I myself have gone through training, and I have mentored under a couple of herbalists. And so while I certainly don't consider myself a master of it, I have a pretty good understanding of it. I also, many years ago when I was in law enforcement, went through EMT school, and I'm glad that I did. Because I have a pretty good working knowledge of basic, first aid, basic emergency care, and even moonlighted part-time for a while in an ER. So, I got some good experience there. We need to have some kind of knowledge of how to treat medically, more so than just, oh, you need to take some cough medicine for that nasty cough. We need to have some basic emergency medicine knowledge. And you can certainly get training for that. You can certainly pay someone or go to some type of class, but there's also books available for that. And so, my first suggestion is to make sure you have books available. You can get books like this one I've been talking about. I think a few other YouTube channels have been promoting it. This is a really good book, Survival Medicine. But if you can't afford it, or you don't have access to that, can't find it, go to old bookstores, thrift stores, places kind of like a Goodwill, that usually has books. And a lot of times you'll find like old nursing books, old paramedic school books. I see them at the ones around here all the time, people that's gone through school for that, and they donate their books and they sell them. You can find some good information in those kind of books. So certainly get those. Make sure you have the supplies. Obvious basic first aid supplies, the boo-boo stuff, band-aids, bandages, that kind of stuff is excellent. You need to have first aid supplies for like combat level injuries, tourniquets, sucking chest wounds, to have to seal them, those kind of things. And that's where a lot of preppers focuses on when it comes to medical. And I don't discount that at all. But I'm going to tell you that as a homesteader, when you have your own land, you may not ever have to deal with a bullet wound to the chest, whether it be yours or someone else. You may not ever have to deal with that. But are you going to have to deal with a sprained ankle? Are you going to have to deal with a cut or falling and bruising yourself, or even a broken bone? Eventually you will. I can't imagine, and maybe I'm just a big clumsy ox, but I can't imagine any person that lives out like this over a period of time not having at least some level of injury. It's going to happen. So you need to have that. And then it wouldn't hurt to also add to your supplies what I would consider emergency medical equipment, or things like that to take care of those. And what I'm talking about are things like crutches and braces, a walking foot. I don't even know what they're called. I can't remember. Foot cast, the foot brace, the walking foot brace. Things like that. It wouldn't hurt to have those on hand. And I know many of you are saying, well, my goodness, how do I get them? A lot of times you have to have a prescription. No, that's not true. Or that they're really expensive. And that's not true also if you do some digging. And maybe this is just something that's happens around here, but I think you could probably find it in your area. Again, the thrift stores, the charitable kinds, kind of like a Goodwill. We don't have that around here, but we have lots of local charities that have, little thrift stores where people donate the stuff and they sell it to put money back into the charity. And almost every time I go to one of those, I find stuff like, walkers, and the little toilets that you put over your toilet seat, or little shower seats. And a lot of this stuff is from elderly that have passed on, and then they donate it to these kind of places to sell. Some of that stuff could still be useful. Some of it would be very useful for a prepper, having a crutches. If you sprain your ankle, twist your ankle really bad, you might need some crutches. And if you don't have those available, I would suggest looking into something like that, or even a walker, or something else like that. These are these items that you may not think you need, or that if you ever needed them, you're just going to run down to your doctor and he's going to send you to Walgreens with the prescription. Um, when that all goes away, or you don't have access to it, you should have some of these items available. And we have procured some of them over the last few years at going to these kind of places. And I'll tell you, we've spent very, very little money, usually just a few dollars on each item. So we have that kind of stuff available. So that's another suggestion. I would suggest you certainly look into those. And then another one is that everyone in your home, at least most everyone, needs to know the basics of how to do the other person's job. And so, for instance, myself, being the guy and everything, there's certain things around here that I do. My wife doesn't do them, I do them. And you can call me a sexist, misogynistic, whatever, and I don't care. There are certain jobs around here that my wife predominantly does. But my wife knows how to do the things that I do, and I know how to do the things that she does. And then our children, they know the basics of how to do the things, especially our oldest son. But the other two, they're 9 now, and they can, for the most part, understand how to do most of the things that I do and most of the things that mom does. And so that way, if any one of us gets injured or we're sick, we can all pull together, and it's not as a big of a slowdown of just the general movement of our property, of our homestead. If someone's injured or sick, everyone else kind of pulls together and we get the job done. So that's something you need to be doing. Let's say you have a tractor, an old tractor, and this is common with old tractors. There's some little quirky way to get it started. You don't just go out there and turn the key and it fires up. You got to pull this and put this little wire over here and turn this little thing here, and just to get it started. Well, if you're the only one that knows how to do that, and you get sick or you've injured yourself, and your wife needs to go out there and do something with the tractor and she can't figure it out, what is she going to do? Well, now she's got to get your, injured and sick body up out of bed and drag you out there so that you can help her get the thing started. Well, you need to be teaching her how to do that now. Don't wait for that day. Along with the injury, I've mentioned being ill, you need to be able to, as best as possible, treat yourself. And right now is the best time to learn, really, I think, for herbal medicine. We have maybe not all of the knowledge in the past. There's certainly a lot of it that's been forgotten, but we have a lot of natural, herbal, holistic knowledge from the past, and we have modern science that's added to that and taught us ways to improve upon that natural way of healing. And so you should definitely know how to do basic treatment in your family. You can be what's called a family herbalist. You don't have to go off to some school. You don't even have to do some kind of online course. If you want to, that's great. And there's a lot of reputable places that can teach you how to be basically a family herbalist. The best thing that you can do, though, is just pick up a book and start reading it and get out there and practice. And possibly along the way, you'll meet someone personally that has greater knowledge than you. And that's one great thing that I found out amongst, natural herbal people. They love to share their knowledge. Almost every one of them that I've ever met, they want to teach others what they know. And so do that and learn from that, because you never know. It might be the one thing that saves your life or your family's life. Here on our homestead, that's how we treat a lot of things. The kids get colds, or they get a runny nose, maybe a little fever, and we mix something up that we know what works, and we give it to them, and they do all right, and we save ourselves doctor bills and medicines and things like that. And also just they're not, I don't know, I just feel that a lot of these medicines just aren't good for you. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't use modern allopathic medicine if necessary, but we do our best to treat everything here. At some point in the future, that may be our only option. And you can't stock up on every kind of modern prescription there is in the event you need them. And they don't have a really long shelf life. So you need to learn how to treat yourself. You need to learn how to do basic first aid. You should have little first aid training in your family. Much like in the same way you need to teach your wife and everyone how to turn on that quirky tractor, does everyone in your family know how to set a broken leg and bandage it up? Does everyone know how to use a tourniquet? Does everyone know how to render basic first aid if you've fallen and you could have some kind of neck or back injury, or you've gone into shock or something? Does everyone in your family know how to do that? Everyone that's at least old enough to do that should know how, and you should train. Like I said, there's training you can go through, but even if you don't have that available, actual training classes, you can learn from books. There's videos online. Maybe you have people in your family or your circle of friends that are EMTs or paramedics that would be willing to come over some Saturday or Sunday, on the weekend, and teach your family just basic first aid stuff. I would strongly suggest you do that because, like I said, you may go through all of this and the world may end and you may never fire a shot or maybe never get shot at. But the odds of you being injured, the odds of someone in your family being injured, the odds of you getting sick or someone in your family getting sick are really high because they happen all the time. In this kind of lifestyle, it just happens. Or it could be like me yesterday and be an idiot and just in a hurry and not paying attention to what I was doing and tripping and falling. It doesn't take much, and those things are going to happen, are much more likely to happen than some dramatic and exciting combat, that you have dreamed up in your mind or that you've watched in a apocalyptic movie. So I would certainly put a lot of effort. When I mention the most important things to do for prepping, I talk about food, water, shelter, and medical. Okay. Those are super, super important. So don't discount the medical and don't just have, well, I got some Band-Aids from, the dollar shop, and so I'm good. Make sure you have a good kit and research. There's a lot of things that you can get. There are a few things that you have to have a doctor's prescription, but a lot of those kind of things, you can get the exact same stuff over at your local farm supply for your livestock. Just a little tip. But make sure you have the equipment, the medical supplies, and then try as best as you can to get you some training. Because like I said, you're going to need it. You are. I mean, we need it. We everything's still kind of running normal in the world, and we live on this little homestead, and we need it all the time. We use our skills, whether they be, injuries or illnesses, all the time to get us along. So it's going to be much more profound and much more important to your survivability when things really start crumbling around us and you don't have access to all those medical, modern medicine like you did in the past. All right, folks, get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.